Everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. We are back on part two with Emma Isaacs, and we're talking about her book, Winging It. Love the idea of winging it. And I just want to, I have to read, are you okay if you indulge me to
Oh,
read some of the sections in your
God.
book on what winging it means? Winging it means saying yes and working it out later. Winging it means trying something before you think you're ready. Winging it means less second guessing yourself and more going with your gut. Winging it means spending less time trying to concoct the perfect plan and future proof yourself for dramas that possibly won't even eventuate. this is this is like me, and this is me. This one really relates to me. Winging it means more time for going with the flow and celebrating the unexpected. This is also one for me. Winging it means being comfortable with the uncomfortable. Wing it means allowing to try the thing you might hesitate to do if you had too much information. Oh, God, that's me too. Winging is the act of believing in yourself to give your dreams a go. Winging it puts you in control, and that's exactly where you deserve to be. So this is just so perfect. I love every aspect of it. What called you to write this book?
Great question. Um, so as I said in the previous segment, I have been running my own companies for the past 20 years, and being an entrepreneur by trade, that is my career. It really causes you to hustle. It causes you to get creative. It causes you to kind of shortcut things to be able to, even just to survive. To be able to put food on the table when you're not relying on a paycheck. You got to make things up. So when I sat down to write this book, I really, I suppose I thought about the philosophies that had gotten me to where I've gotten in my career and in my life. And I also am in a pretty unique position of both seeing what propels women forward in their careers and what holds them back. And also through my work with Business Chicks over the past 15 years, I've worked alongside some of the world's most incredible business leaders and visionaries and gotten to spend meaningful time with them. So I talk about this the time that I, met Bill Gates and spent some time with him, and obviously Richard Branson is now a dear friend and mentor to me. And these people, Brene Brown, you mentioned, Ariana Huffington. I get to meet them in my work, and I see what they're like both on stage and off stage. And I think what we can often do as mere mortals, we can put these people on this pedestal. We put successful people up here, and we think, oh, they must have it all figured out. They must have this perfect plan. They must have everything, all their ducks in a row and everything in order. And what I learned from these people is that they don't. What they have learned to do is to cultivate their confidence. They've learned to say yes without having all the answers. They've learned to sort of back themselves into situations that result in opportunities, and they don't have this kind of perfectly laid out plan. So in
Mm,
my eyes, they are winging it as much as all of us are
mm,
winging it. And they've just become comfortable with a few things. Like they're very, very comfortable in not having all the answers. They're very, very comfortable in failure. They're comfortable in not having to look a certain way and pretend like they know everything. And so for me, that was really where the kind of philosophy for winging it came from. And as I started to study this and learn more, I just saw it as a really, kind of common theme or common denominator for all these
yeah.
people. So yeah, it was really exciting when I kind of stumbled across it. And
Yeah, you're human too.
yeah, you're like all of us, and you're a billionaire.
Exactly. Okay. Makes it possible for me. All right, talking
Totally.
about making possible. All right, I read this and like, what? You've birthed all six babies at your home. You even streamed the birth of your baby boy. And you've grown your businesses over the last 20 years. And so you said you have a range of children all under age 11. Is that what you said?
That's what I said. Yeah,
I was, I was like, wait a second, I'll have to ask about that again.
is that right?
Oh, okay.
No,
So,
yes. So my eldest is 11. I have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and the little guy, the newest little guy, is 5 months now. And yeah, we live stream his work on Instagram.
prime numbers, prime numbers. You got. Okay, 1 2 5 7 9 11.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, not quite one, but all right. So in terms of things that hold us back as moms, it's like, what about if I work? What will the impact be with my kids? I should wait to work until my kids go to school, or I'm going to have my spouse who makes more money than me take the lead, and I'll take some secondary thing or not work at all. So these are examples of things I've heard, people
Sure.
that hold them back. So how did this idea of winging it come in to help propel people forward on these, which I think are common beliefs? And did I miss any? I don't know if those are the ones I hear, but what are the ones that you hear? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great question, and all those things that you mentioned are very, very real and very, very valid. And my lived experience is going to be different to yours, to your other, to your listeners. So again, we take what we need and leave what we don't, right? So
right.
for me, when I had my first child just under the age of 30, and at that time, my career was my businesses, thank goodness have been profitable every year, and we've grown every single year. But at the age of 30, when I had my first, I was in, I don't know, I suppose my zone, or I had a lot of energy. I knew that they were my highest earning years. I felt in a lot of ways bulletproof, and so I made a very, very conscious decision to not take my foot off the accelerator of my
Mm,
career. And I
mhm,
get that that's different for everyone else. Were there and are there still massive sacrifices that I have to make? Absolutely. I'm one of these people that, has been known to change children's birthdays to a different date so that I can be there for their actual birthday. It's not working so much anymore because they're off, but when they're little ones, like I could do
right.
that. But for me, it was a very, very conscious decision to say, no, I'm going to keep working, as much as humanly possible. I'm going to take a limited amount of mat leave. And again, it's all deeply personal choices that every woman and family are faced with, but that's what worked for me. Did that mean that often, a lot of my weeks I was paying as much for childcare as I was earning, right? So,
Hmm.
big sacrifice there. It wasn't as if there was all this, I wasn't flush with cash and could afford it. It was like, again, a very, very conscious decision that I want to keep working and I want to build something during these years. Obviously, it has got more complicated as every single bub has come along. But for me, and again, different for every single person, but I have found what I love doing and my work gives me energy. So for me to actually be a good parent, I actually derive energy from my work. And of course, I feel very privileged and blessed to be able to do that. But for me, I love working, and I'm not ashamed to say I work really hard. You know, I I've got a funny kind of idea, or the idea of work-life balance to me just has always seemed a little bit unattainable. So it's not as if I'm striving for balance and trying to kind of have the scales like tipped like this perfectly every single day. For me, it's not about that at all. Really, I try and be working when I'm working, and I try and be present in my parenting when I'm parenting. And that all
Hmm.
sounds lovely. And of course, I fail regularly, but I really try and do those roles by being in the moment with my
Mm,
kiddos or in my business. But yeah, I mean, listen, my brand of doing it, or how I kind of manage that juggle, is by asking for a lot of help. It's, I don't have any family here in California, and my family are back in Australia. So we, have a team in the home that, I'm always, we're always in it. I'm a very, very hands-on mom, and can tell you exactly where the homework's up to and where the friendships are up to. But yeah, it does. It takes a village. Yeah, and it's not without sacrifice if you choose to work as hard as I certainly have.
yeah, and I think when I think about winging it for me, when I was working full time and also having kids, it was, I mean, giving up on certain things like, okay, like sometimes I actually wore a blue sock and a black sock, and it wasn't until the middle of the day I'm like, wow,
What am I doing?
I have a blue sock and a black sock on. It's probably because I had 3 hours of sleep last night. But
Yeah.
okay, I have like, so it's like not pushing yourself to kind of look perfect or be perfect.
Mm.
And I made the terrible mistake of taking a new job because I wanted to learn more while I was having my first baby. So it's like learning curve at work, learning curve, and I
Right.
wung it and thought I'm never going to do this again. This is what winging it has taught me. Because sometimes I don't know. Because sometimes winging it, I think from my perspective, is you wing it and then you think, oh, this is a terrible mistake. But if I
100%.
didn't do it, I wouldn't know what it would be like for me. I don't know about for you, but I've had similar. At one point when I was in my coaching, I thought I don't know how many clients I can take,
Mm,
and still work part time and still pick up the kids and
mm,
still do all this stuff. And so I just kept on going. And I'm like, okay, went from 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. And at 40, it just started. I'd be like, no. Are you the one whose mom died? Like, I mean, it was really bad. I could not do a good job at all. But for
Oh,
that, like 3 months, it was so painful. I was just sucking wind the whole time because I was in over my head, and I thought 40 is not okay with me. And
mm.
then I worked it down to 20, and then I thought, okay, 15 to 20 is kind of
Your
what I can
sweet spot.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, yeah, I don't know. Those are the kinds of areas where I had to wing it when I had kids. But are there any things that you feel like you've had to wing as a mom?
Oh, I mean, I think going back to you made a beautiful point just before about, we all can choose to wing it, right? And I think it does circle back to this idea of perfectionism. And I think women do try and appear a certain way, like we've got it all together, and no, we're fine, we're fine, we're fine, we've got it all
Right.
together. So I've certainly been someone who's been, the first to say, I am not fine here. I'm not doing well. My sock is black and my sock is blue, and
Right.
have a laugh at yourself, right? But I think what you said about winging it is ultimately a beautiful thing. And I'll give you an example in my life. We chose to move our entire family from Australia to the US 5 years ago. If I knew everything I now know about that process, would I have done it? Absolutely not. It has
Mm,
been fraught with challenge, fraught with failure, very expensive, very, challenging on every single level. Now, if you told me all of this back then 5 years ago, would I have done it? I just wouldn't have, right? But the learning and the
mm,
growth and the experience and the adventure and the surprise and ultimately like the fulfillment, the richness of the life has been so
mm,
phenomenal. So if I was scared back then and if I let fear dictate the decision that was in front of me, I would not be here today. So I think
mm,
this idea of winging is about, confidence and trying things. And it's not to say that it's going to be perfect or work out, or you may fall on your face. And I think you had to go through that experience to say, you know what, 40 is way too many for me to be able to deal with, right? So I'm going to scale that back. And it's not to say that you didn't, it's an experiment, it's an adventure. Life should be an experiment, it should be an adventure. So, you backed yourself into that decision. You tried it, great. You had to scale it back, and now here you are. And you wouldn't have done that if you hadn't, you know, been called to the art of winging it in the first place.
yes, and I don't regret it at all. I
No.
mean, having done that, I was like, okay, well, I now know. And there
Yeah.
have been positive things where I thought, well, I don't know. I'm not making enough money and I feel like I should, so I'm just going to like double my rates today. And like see what
I love you.
and then like, wow, I'm getting better clients. I'm getting more clients, better clients than I
Yeah.
did when I made half the price. So it
Right.
means I can work half the time, make the same amount of money. I'm like, this is brilliant. But had
Yeah.
I not try just double like whatever. I just am not making enough money. I don't want to work this hard and just thought I'm just going to double my price and see what happens. Had I
Oh,
not done that, then you wouldn't have known, right? And I
yeah.
don't regret.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.